So you don't get a run cast today. You get a drive cast today. So it's Sunday. It's a rest day. And I found out very recently that Animal Army, which is a local animal rescue clinic care provider, they do like emergency treatment and care for street animals, for like dogs that are in very bad way. And then they also have like adoption services. It's not quite like a humane society, like they don't have tons and tons of dogs there, but they take care of dogs that are in pretty extreme cases, and they have an ambulance in emergency cases. And I've called them a number of times with situations with dogs that I find on my runs, and they've helped me in those cases. Well, they've helped the dogs in those cases in pretty amazing ways. And I really like Dr. Quanji, who's the head over there. He's the main surgeon and operates everything, runs everything. He has volunteers there. But I found out today he's from Khon and he loves Muay Thai. Like, anytime I go see him, he's very excited to talk to me about Muay Thai. He loves that I'm a Muay Thai fighter. But when I found out he was from Khon and I was like rattling off a couple of the fighters, the best fighters ever that come from Khon, he just expanded the list. Like, he knows exactly who comes from Khon. It's pretty amazing. But the reason I'm making this video is that I think that it's a little bit hard. There's a little bit of a like gap in understanding and a cultural difference and a lost in translation thing that goes on with the situation of animals and like animal rescues and stuff across the West and here. Oftentimes when I put up videos of the dogs that I'm feeding or the dogs that I'm petting or the dogs that I come across on my runs, all these different things, people are always kind of curious, and they have like really, really good hearts about it. They're always curious and interested in if these dogs can be adopted and rescued, and what do you do with this, and the mama dogs and all these different things. And I think it's one of these things where I'm like, I'm aware of what Western thoughts or American thoughts are, but I'm also very aware of what the Thai situation is. And I think that gap for me was something that took a little bit to cover that distance in my own understanding, and something that I kind of want to talk about just as a way of helping explain what the differences are so that people kind of understand the situations that are going on. I'm from Boulder, Colorado, and there was no such thing as stray dogs. Like, there were no stray dogs ever. If you ever came across a dog that was like on the street or rummaging through your garbage at night or something, it was a lost dog. Like, it was someone's dog that had gotten lost, and you post, and it's usually reunited, or if your dog goes missing, you go and you look at the local pound and you can get your dog back. Dogs that were in the pound that don't belong to anybody, that would have been stray dogs, there's like a very aggressive dog catcher policy of getting dogs kind of into pounds. And I don't know what Boulder's kill shelter situation is like. Like, I really it never was in my consciousness. And I think that this is kind of part of the thing, is that you can not have that in your consciousness. So stray animals, homeless animals was just not part of my consciousness, other than that you can go to the pound and adopt a dog or cat. But you don't see a lot of it. It's a lot actually like American prisons where it's just invisible, whatever's going on there. So it's this kind of like warehousing of animals, and I assume that there's non-kill shelters and things like this, but animals just spend an incredibly long amount of time in kennels and stuff in order to keep them off the street, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. In Thailand, there are a lot of stray animals. Like, they are everywhere, and there are some areas where they're more population dense than other places. Like Phuket has a huge stray dog situation. Areas of Pattaya, like Pratamnak Hill, is just covered in dogs. And so you have organizations. People probably know the Soy Dog Foundation, Animal Army, where I just was, Man Who Rescues Dogs. Like, there are all of these bigger and smaller organizations that do pretty aggressive spay and neutering campaigns. They do rabies vaccination. Like, they have kind of organizational work that they do to kind of deal with these animal populations. But there are stray dogs everywhere all the time, and this is not something that's going to be like solved or fixed. You just try to limit the population with the spay and neutering. You try to give them the appropriate vaccinations for public health, which is largely like human public health situations. But then there's also this quality to it, which is that these stray animals are kind of cared for by the community in a lot of senses. Like if you go out at 5 to 6:30 about anywhere during the day, like in the evening, you will see restaurateurs who, have been scraping plates all day from their little canteens into a bucket to clear tables when people don't finish their plates of food. And they'll go and feed that to dogs. Like they have a route that they do every single day, and they space it out, and the dogs know they're coming. And it's kind of beautiful. It's kind of cool. And there are people, like anytime you have like a vendor, like a food vendor, there'll be a couple of dogs that hang out there and get fed. When you go to the beach, Kevin and I call it free dogs. Like you get a dog that'll hang out with you at the beach because a lot of people eat at the beach. And so there are dogs that have territories where they're more or less taken care of by the community. And so the difference between like a domestic, this is my pet dog, and a street dog in many cases is not that big of a difference. People who don't have a lot of money, who have a couple of dogs that they take care of, they're not giving these dogs lots of medical attention. They are feeding the dog. I think of this woman who lives up the street from Ramba. She might be his aunt or something, I don't know, but she's got like, I swear, like 15 dogs. And this is not one of these Western, like, if you can't take care of a dog, don't get one kind of thing. Like, I agree with you. But at the same time, this woman is kind. And so there were dogs near her, stray dogs near her, and she started feeding one or two. And when you do that, you now have 5 dogs, because other dogs will come want to be fed too, and you feed them too, and then one gets pregnant, and now you have 20 dogs. And this is how dogs are here. So something that I think people need to understand that is not common in the U.S. at least, I'm sure there are other countries where this is the case, with all of these stray dogs around everywhere just kind of being sort of taken care of, you really have to understand the entire social structure of that. So when Dr. Quanji takes a case, these are dogs that like really, really need help. So in the same way of like public health, he'll take dogs. TVT is very common here. It's a sexually transmitted virus that causes a cancer. So it's a little bit like human papillomavirus in that way. But it gets spread very fast, but it requires like chemo treatment. Kevin and I had a dog that lived on our front driveway of our apartment building that we took in for this kind of treatment. It's an injection, and they have to get a bunch of them to try to treat these tumors and the cancer and things like this. And it's long term. Like, you have to do this many, many times. And so these dogs will be brought in from the street for this treatment, and then they're not adopted. Like, you don't just adopt a dog out of nowhere that's not in amazing health, and it's older, and it's not a puppy, and all of these different things. And so they actually just go back to where they were. And it's this social order thing where it's like, this dog lives in this area and receives a little bit of care or whatever the thing is. So you give it the medical treatment that it needs, but ultimately it's going to be put back where you found it. There was a dog, Teddy, that I called them about. He had these massive tumors, like, just hanging from his body. And they darted him, took him in, removed them, gave him a couple of weeks of treatment, and put him back where he was. And this is just, you're doing the best you can for that animal. And a lot of people, when I'm posting, puppies, amazing, gorgeous, beautiful little puppies, people are like, adopt all the puppies and adopt the mom. And I'm like, I would love for that to be the situation, but these are healthy animals. Like, this is a healthy mama dog. These are healthy babies. They're not going to be taken in because there's just simply no room. And so you kind of do it based on this case-by-case basis of like, who needs medical help, who needs the most help, and then you put them back in their social situation. And I think that's something that I became I've been aware of, but I became aware of in terms of like what Dr. Quanji is dealing with. He said he gets bullied a little bit by other organizations. And this is a man who for 30 years has been doing operations on dogs. He's been doing you know, spay and neuter, but he's also been amputating and, you know, doing life-saving surgeries, and dogs with spinal injuries, they get hit by cars and things like this. He's done like 6,000 surgeries. He does surgery every day for the past 30 years. He's retired, and what he does is animal army. Like, he's not retired, because he does it out of his heart. And it's this thing where, like, you have to understand the entire social order of things. Like, if you're there aren't really huge organizations that are rolling in money and just going here and there. That's not really a thing. Like, organizations are always trying to stay afloat and do these things, but he's very connected to the Pattaya, Sattahip area. He takes actually cases from pretty far away. I've been surprised some of the cases that have come in from far areas, different provinces of Thailand. But he understands the social orders here. Like, when someone wants him to take care for a dog, he needs to know, where does this dog live? Who's it connected to? Is there someone who's actually taking care of it? Is it a street dog? Does it have nowhere to go? How urgent is its situation? And I think these are things that people need to take into consideration when looking at organizations in a sense of urgency and how much good they can do with any given case. And so where you put your attention for doing the most good in these situations. And I think it's really important. I love what Dr. Quanji does. I think that he works incredibly hard, and I think that he does the best he can under circumstances that kind of are never ideal. Like, these are really, really unideal situations everywhere. I've run out at Silver Lake, which is kind of over by where his clinic is. And maybe you guys saw this if you follow me. I put up a reel of this. I was running and I was checking in on these mama dogs and their babies, and I couldn't find the mama dogs, and I was kind of freaking out. And I found them in the grass. They had just been spayed, and they were just like resting in the grass, very, very drugged up. And so I picked them up and I brought them over to the shade so that they could, you know, sleep off their anesthesia in the shade. And then I came back later in the afternoon with some food for them and the puppies, and they were up and moving around. But I was like, this is so close to where Animal Army is. I wonder if this was Dr. Quanji. And it's this situation where, like, you come and you spay them and you make sure they're safe, and then they're in a situation where they're just going to need to recover, and you put them back where they live near their puppies so they can keep taking care of their puppies, but they've had this surgery so that they won't have future litters. And it's the best you can do under super unideal circumstances. And I don't know, I'm making this long video just to talk about how complex, and yet the intention of just do the best you can is incredibly simple. So it's a complicated rafters of all the things that you have to deal with, but the simplicity of it is he is doing as much good as he can given his circumstances and given the circumstances of how things are here. And I think that I think they're doing a really great job. And so Kevin and I were really happy to go up there today and just spend some time with some of the dogs, just sitting with them and talking to them and calling them good boys and girls over and over again for 10-15 minutes at a time. There were a couple that had amputations, and so they were with their cones and just kind of laying in their kennels trying to get some rest, and just going and just spending some time with them. He does skin grafts. You can use like tilapia fish skin for skin grafts on dog. You can do it on people too, but it's an incredibly inexpensive way to do skin grafts on dogs, which here is a big problem because they get bit and then they have these infections, and you have to redress a wound every day is what Dr. Quanji was explaining. And the dogs get agitated and you can't bind certain things, but with the fish skin you only have to change it once a week, which is much easier for the dog. And it's basically a collagen treatment, so the dog is regrowing its own skin underneath it, which is, I don't know, it's really cool to me. That's very like bioengineering kind of stuff. All right, that's today.